Hello, welcome back to the Bookcast Club, a monthly podcast for readers. We're three friends, Jenny, Sarah and Belle, here to bring you the feeling of a good bookish chat with mates over a cup of tea. We cover all sorts of things in our episodes: prize lists, book club discussions, author spotlights, genre-themed episodes, and episodes where we compare a book to its on-screen adaptation. We're all about making literary conversations feel welcoming and inclusive, and we hope you'll stick around for the fun. It's Jenny today, coming to you from Norwich in the UK, Belle coming to you from Melbourne, and Sarah coming to you from the Netherlands. We are going to be discussing our favourite books of the year so far and some honourable mentions. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hi.
How are we today? Out of the heat
Good.
wave.
Very relieved. Yes, we're very happy. We were supposed to be recording this last week in the midst of the...
I don't think we could have done it.
We put it off, thank God. That would have been the grumpiest podcast. I would I hate books, not interested in reading.
Never reading again.
Yeah, exactly. Don't talk to me.
It was the peak of the hottest weather, wasn't it? So I feel like we'd have just cooked inside. We'd have been puddles on the floor. And Belle in her winter gear would have been fine. Carrying everything.
Yeah, that was not my issue. Yeah.
No.
I was staying in an Airbnb for work and had no internet, so yeah.
It was funny. Belle
these
sent
guys a good excuse.
saying, I'm really sorry, guys. I've got to cancel. Me and Sarah were like, thank fuck that.
Oh, God.
No one wants to be the one who's like, guys, I've got to cancel because I'm too hot.
Yeah, exactly. Also, I've told Jenny, I have to say, I've dug my own grave here because I have told Jenny off for years for complaining too much about the heat. I'm like,
complaining about the weather.
It's
Sarah
much
loves
hotter
the
in
heat.
Australia. Yeah, finally, either I've integrated or global warming's just really got us.
Totally
But yeah, I think I've told off Jenny every summer since I've been for 6 years, I guess, Jenny.
Yeah, when I complain about any kind of hot weather.
Yeah, I'm like, so British, complaining about the heat, blah, blah, blah. I also always used to try, we used to do this thing, we used to talk a little bit more at the beginning of the podcast, as I am now. And I used to always try and cut Jenny off to not talk about the weather. That was a bit of a competition we always used to have, where Jenny would try and get in her little weather discussion, and I'd quickly try and be like, oh, so asking really specific questions.
Move it on.
Like a Fox News interviewer steering the conversation in my direction.
Away from the weather.
Away from the heat.
But we're okay this week. We're a mere 26 today, which is actually, it's cold. No, it's not cold. But yeah, it was funny when the temperature dropped and I was like, oh, I feel bloody freezing, and it was 25 degrees, which is a normal summer day in the UK, which I would rightly, like Sarah says, complain about. But yeah, I'm very grateful right now. We're here to talk favourite books of the year so far. I cannot believe we're in July already, and we're going to unpack the last 6 months of reading. We've got 2 books each, I think, so we're going to take it in turns. Who wants to go first?
Can we maybe discuss how the reading's been? Should we have a little brief?
We can maybe discuss how reading's been. Yeah,
yeah,
why not?
That's a good idea.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's contextualize. Yeah, so the last couple of years, I have really struggled with reading in general. I think a lot of people do. So I used to read a shit ton, 100 books a year. Really struggled the last couple of years. I think I've been down to 30 or something, which is still fine. It's totally fine. But for me, as someone who likes reading as a hobby, it reflects that I'm not enjoying my hobby as much, because it just, that's how I like to spend my time. If it's going down by that much, it just shows that I'm not enjoying the time as much or whatever. And it's picked up again this year. It's really I've sort of recovered, which I'm really pleased about. But I haven't read that many bangers. So when I was looking at my story graph to see what I would talk about today, I've read 27, 28 books I think this year so far. Only 4 of them I've given a 5-star. So it's not. So my sort of frequency is back, but I'm not loving what I've been reading, which I hadn't realized. And I was oh, looking at my little graph that you get on Storygraph. So
yeah, I'm actually having the same
I don't mind
this year. Yeah,
you are.
I just feel like I've read a lot of flops. I've not read anywhere near as many books as you've read. I can't believe we're halfway through the year. I think I'm in the mid to high teens, or something like that. But I'm glad we didn't have to pick more than 2 books, because there's literally only been 2 books that I've given 5 stars to this year, and the rest of them, I've got one honourable mention, but I wouldn't even want to talk about the rest of them. Yeah, it's been a bit disappointing. I feel like my reading's been off in the last year as well, maybe. I don't know if it's just related to, like, I think it's just like stress and, I don't know, mental health.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Physical health stuff.
Yeah,
I don't know, just, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you've been moving around a lot. You've had a lot of, you've had a lot of like changes and stuff. And that certainly, the last couple of years, that certainly was what stopped me from enjoying reading so much, is that I had a lot of upheaval. Moved quite a few times. I think I moved 3 times or something. So it just, a lot of uncertainty. I sort of was debating to move back to Australia and ended up staying in the Netherlands. I'm from Australia originally, like Belle is, from a new listener. So yeah, I totally, it's really hard to like settle into something really enjoyable when you're, and I think I was reading like 20-30 books a year the last few years. And they were like everything I had to read for the podcast, basically. There wasn't a lot of like fun and vibes. So yeah, I totally get that. And it's hard to settle into you also tend to read pretty serious stuff. I think you tend to lean in towards like pretty reflective gear.
I think that's my issue as well, because I, like many people, have shelves and shelves of TBR reads, which I love, but I'll look at them and I almost like not in the headspace to read that or that or that or that, and then I don't read anything. But I've been trying to pick up shorter books in the hopes that feels a little bit less daunting, and I think I haven't really been doing it, but my aim is going to be trying to branch out in terms of genres probably for the rest of this year, like just more away from the lit fic and the sad memoirs, and instead probably trying to just pick up some more like, I don't know, psychological thriller books, crimey books, because they're the ones that they're like beach reads.
You're a thriller rep.
Yeah. So I'm going to try to be a little bit less like serious with my books, and taking the pressure off that a bit. So that's the goal. I'll let you know how it goes.
I have to say, I do. We've probably said this on the podcast before, but if we haven't, for anybody that's new here, we switched from a seasonal format. At the end of last year was the last kind of season we did, and this year we've gone to monthly episodes, and it's made a huge difference for me in terms of my reading. Just like we do have prescribed reading, but I feel like we just have a lot more time now to read what we want to read, which just lifts that pressure off. It being a chore and it being a job when, it's supposed to be a fun hobby of ours to do this. I really enjoyed reading the Women's Prize this year, whereas other years I've found it a chore. But yeah, just having the space to pick up what I want to pick up, knowing that there's no pressure to even necessarily talk about it on here, is really, really good. For me, at least, anyway.
Yeah, me too. 100%. Yeah, I think for me with the reading thing, what helped start reading, I started to read like a tiny bit every day, so to sort of forget about like numbers or whatever, to just for like the habit, because I was just doing things, and it doesn't matter. It really does not matter how many books you read in a year or whatever. But for me, it was like just an indication that I wasn't spending my time in a way that I enjoy. Like I was probably like getting too lost on my phone and whatever. So therefore, I tried to make it like kind of a daily habit to just get into the frame of mind that I would like read as a habit rather than just like fucking around on my phone. But yeah, it's all, I don't know, it's all something. Yeah.
Hopefully we've got some decent books to talk about. I also had a fairly mediocre reading 6 months, and just by chance, really, just the books I've picked up haven't been fantastic. But I do have 2 to talk about that I haven't talked about before. That was also the challenge. Who wants to kick us off?
Shall I?
I'm happy to start. Oh, go for it, Sarah.
All right, go for it.
Fight.
Go.
Go on, Belle.
I was so excited when I realised I remembered that I'd read this book this year and therefore could talk about it, because, I don't know, in my mind it was the end of last year. But this was the first book that I read this year, and I've got to say it was disappointing that my reading this year has like flopped after this, because I was like started on such a high with this book. So my favourite book of the year so far is The Fate of Mary Rose by Carolyn Blackwood, which I think I've talked about. Actually, I don't know if I've talked about it, or maybe I wrote a little review on the podcast Instagram.
I think you might have done.
Yeah,
I've definitely edited you talking about it. So
okay,
somewhere,
well, great.
Somewhere you have.
Well, too bad.
Okay.
Too bad. I don't have.
No, go on.
I only have 2 5-star reads this year, and this is one of it. So
There'll be only people that listen to this episode, Belle. So go
don't
for
worry.
it.
Our well doesn't run that deep. It's fine.
Okay, so. So The Fate of Mary Rose by Carolyn Blackwood. I feel like Carolyn Blackwood should be essential reading, and I've told so many people about this book and lent my copy out and recommended it to people when I've been browsing bookshops with friends, and I've had friends buy it and then read it and love it as well. So I'm going to try really hard not to spoil it. It's hard to whittle it down into a neat blurb. But essentially, you'll love this book if you're drawn into dark and twisty writing. So think sort of Shirley Jackson, Patricia Highsmith. And if you love to lose yourself in stories that explore the history of female neurosis and hysteria, if you like a novel that makes you question the reliability of its narrator, because it's probably got the most unlikable narrator of a book I've ever read, and it just reminds you of the slippery sort of power of perception. The story is told from the perspective of Mary Rose's father, a man called Rowan, who spends most of his time in London writing a biography and fighting with his possessive girlfriend. He periodically visits his daughter and his wife, Cressida, in their country cottage. He finds their secluded life very claustrophobic, so avoids visiting as much as he can as he builds up the courage to leave them for good. However, the abduction of a local girl pushes Cressida's already neurotic behaviour further and further away from reality as she becomes obsessed with the missing girl. And she's sort of exalted by this opportunity to demonstrate the dangers of the world and men to her daughter, and what sort of comes from this small town drama is just grim and and honestly quite delightful as well. It's not one character in this book is likable. One of those books that you have to stop yourself from reading in one session because it sort of snowballs, and by the end of it I was just reeling. If you can, save it for an atmospheric weekend away or like a stormy night read. You can definitely do it in a couple of hours. It's quite a small book and quite a fast-paced book. But yeah, this was my first 5-star read of the year, and still the best book I've read.
When was it written, Belle? I feel like they must be re-releasing a lot of her books because they all have that nice cover.
Yeah, it was last published in 1981, and Virago publishers have released one, I think it was like in 2024, have re-released this, The Fate of Mary Rose. So it had been out of print. I'm going to find out when it was written.
Yeah, I feel like they must be re-releasing a few of hers because I can see, or maybe the 80s,
yeah, originally
1980
it was
maybe?
It was only published in that year, I guess, because that was also the last time it was published. I feel like you can kind of tell like that it's not modern day, but just in the fact that nobody's got mobile phones, but otherwise it could be set now or also 50 years prior, like in the 1920s.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of
a lot like
sort of
Shirley
timeless
Jackson, really.
in the way that it's, It's also fantastic because I think just especially in the age of all the true crime podcasts and true crime documentaries and all the conversation around that, and this sort of like the hype sort of around that builds around serial killers or, you know, these really tragic events. This really, really touches on that because essentially, do you pronounce her name Cressida? I've never heard of that name before, and I don't know if it's a British thing, Jen.
I don't know.
Cressida. Anyway, this lady, Mary Rose's mother, she becomes obsessed with this child that's gone missing in their village, and she's, I think, at baseline quite neurotic and scared of the world and like lives this really small existence, and she becomes completely obsessed and like fixated on this little girl that's gone missing. She like suddenly there's a shrine, like a picture of this child on their mantelpiece, and like she becomes really, really, really sucked into it. And I think it's quite early on that you find out that she's actually been killed, and they find her body, and it just gets worse from there. Essentially, it's just such a good read. I 100%.
Yeah, I really want to read it.
Recommend it to everyone. You would love it, Jen. I think you would. Really,
I know.
really
every time you talk about it, I'm like, oh, I'd really love this. And then they've obviously re-released a few of her books because they've all got that same kind of bright cover with a photograph on. So there's a couple more: The Stepdaughter and Great Granny Webster. Yeah, and she obviously writes quite dark stories. So yeah, I'm very up for
There's
reading
also
that.
I'll just say quickly, in the Virago edition in this book, I don't think there's any other editions, so it'll be the one that you get. There is an introduction that is so well written. I don't remember the last time I enjoyed like a author sort of blurb that much. So it tells you all about Caroline Blackwood, who I'd heard her name, but, you know, not ever chased her books. Apparently would have been quite hard to find them pre-Virago republishing this, but I would probably leave the introduction, like don't read the introduction until you finish the book because it assumes you've read the book. And I sort of stopped halfway through and went, oh, I think it's about to have spoilers. And then I went back to it at the end. So just hot tip.
Yeah, so many
start reading the book.
Do that.
Read.
It's so annoying.
Yeah. But it's just such a good like chapter about her. She sounds like she was a very, very cool lady. So yeah.
Can I do my book next, just because it's in a similar macabre vein? I'm going to recommend Monsters by Emerald Fennell. So this book really, really surprised me. I planned to read it for our Wuthering Heights episode because it is indeed the Emerald Fennell who directed Wuthering Heights. My library didn't have it because I think it came out in 2015, so well over 10 years ago, so they didn't have it anymore. So I did a purchase request, which they agreed to, but then that takes quite a long time to come through. Anyway, when it came through, I did still read it. It's a YA novel about two serial killer obsessed 12-year-olds in a small Cornish town. And our protagonist is a sociopath, I guess you'd say. She's very detached in a very comical way, but she's also the victim of abuse and neglect. So it's a book to perhaps look into go onto Storygraph and just check the content warnings. Her teen counterpart, who she meets, she goes to stay with her aunt and uncle in this Cornish town, I think every summer, and she meets this boy who definitely leans more towards the psychopath end of the scale. And by the end of this book, I generally couldn't believe what I'd read, and to the point that I don't know. I don't know if it'd be published today. I don't know whether we were a bit more out there like 10 years ago. But I was like, wow, this is really dark. There's a real sinister edge to it right from the get-go. It has a really macabre tone all the way through that I really, really enjoyed. It's gross and it's shocking, and I'd have loved this as a kid, but reading it as an adult, I was like, oh God, parents are going to give this to children without checking the content. I'm just going to read you a paragraph that I saved. just to give you the vibe. It soon became apparent why the fishermen had been so reluctant. The body was like a chicken leg that had been stewed too long. Every time one of the men tried to pick her up, a piece of sodden flesh slid off the bone. PC Nodder shrieked as a handful of thigh came off in his hand. So that's the that's the general tone of the book. But I thought it was really, really good. And it had so much depth to it for a YA novel, and it does describe abuse in it. It's alluded to rather than being in graphic detail. But if you've ever wondered why small children might become slightly psychotic, it's an interesting read. If you've seen any of her films, you're probably not overly surprised by the vibes of her book. I guess, yeah, the thing I was most surprised at is that this was YA, because other than the protagonists being kids, it's very, very dark. So that would be my warning to anybody, is maybe don't give it to your children. But it definitely was published by a YA publisher. Yeah, it has an amazing cover.
Interesting.
It's got like a... God, this was before its time, because I checked the cover. I was like, is this a re-release? Because it was like an oil painting of a cake with like a dead crab on it. I assumed it was a re-release, but it's not. That was the cover from 2015, at least for the UK. Yeah, Sarah, you wouldn't enjoy it. Belle, I feel like you would.
Okay. I'm ignoring you.
So yeah, there you go, a YA. Who knew? There was no romance in it. That's my issue with YA. I think I cannot deal with the romances in YA, and there is no romance.
Oh, I thought you meant there's not enough.
Not enough romance in it. No romance in it. Yeah, that's usually my issue with YA. It's just I don't find the romances very believable.
Well, that sounds like a wonderful book for you and Belle to bond over. And I wish you every happiness in that.
Go on, Sarah. Lighten the tone here, please.
Yeah, I'm going to change tack wildly. My book is sort of tangentially related to Belle's, only in that I read it also at the beginning of the year. I really enjoyed it. So I'm going to recommend Enlightenment by Sarah Perry. So this was published in 2024, and many people will have come across it already because it was longlisted for the Booker Prize, so it was sort of kicking around a fair bit, I guess 2 years ago now. And it opens as the Halley-Bopp Comet, it's called, I believe, approaches Earth in 1997. The main character is Thomas Hart. He is a gay man in his 50s who was born and raised in this sort of strict, old-fashioned Baptist chapel, and this sort of tight community around the chapel in a small Essex town somewhere in the UK. So he has battled for his whole life between this divide between his identity, his nature as a gay person, and his like religious beliefs and how he's sort of placed in this religious community. So he ends up leaving the sort of Essex town and moving to London, but he returns regularly to sort of worship at the chapel, and he really has trouble sort of letting it go, and it's really sort of this duality that's in his mind. And he also has this friendship with this teenager, Grace Macaulay, who is obviously much younger than him. She's 3 decades his junior, and their friendship kind of forms the center of the novel, and they have this kind of bond for various reasons, and they both sort of have this sort of desire to leave and this desire to explore the world, but also this faith, and they both feel kind of really drawn to come back to this community, and they feel quite tied to the chapel, and they feel quite sort of obliged to it in this sort of complex way. They both end up having these sort of unfortunate romantic relationships, and so they each sort of deal with these unhappinesses in different ways. So Grace ends up taking off, so she ends up disappearing off to London, and Thomas becomes obsessed with the discoverer of that comet that was there at the beginning of the novel, the Halley-Bopp comet. So the comet, the astronomer who discovered the comet, she disappeared in the 19th century, and what happened to her, and obviously she was a female astronomer, so like what was actually going on in terms of like who was doing what work and all that kind of thing is like a huge mystery. And he just becomes really obsessed. She's in that same area that he is in, and he just becomes really obsessed with that and starts writing columns about her. And so over the course of 20 years, Grace and Thomas sort of come see each other again and then disappear again. They sort of go away from each other and come back together, and their lives sort of keep coming back together, sort of centering around this comet and the vanished astronomer, the sort of mystery of it all. So it's written really well. With Thomas writes columns for a local newspaper, and these are sort of in throughout the book as well. So you get these sort of chapters that follow him, you get little chapters of Grace, and then you get little bits of his writing, and you can see like what's interesting him. And he's sort of a very introverted person, so he doesn't really express a lot of how he's feeling. The writing of this book is beautiful. It's like breathtaking. It's really, it paints such a strong picture. It's really, really, really impressive, and you get this sort of sense. Thomas is someone who really looks at the world around him, and he's very interested in, like, obviously comets, and he's sort of got his head in the clouds, and the way that this book is written so beautifully kind of reflects that. It's really, really stunning writing. It is a very slow book, so it's quite meandering. It's really focused on kind of like life and belief and faith and that kind of thing. So if you're not someone who likes that kind of slow pondering read, you might be kind of waiting for it to pick up. It's not really sort of, there is a couple of things that happen with a few characters, a few sort of mini mysteries, but there's not sort of a central plot point. So yeah, it's a very slow meandering book. I really, really enjoyed it. I really like Sarah Perry's writing. I've read a couple of other of her books, and this is, I think, the one I've liked the most. It's just really, really beautiful, and she's got this sort of she really comes into her own. I think this is really the best one of hers I've read. So really, really enjoyed this.
I've only ever read The Essex Serpent. I feel like I have Melmoth downstairs by Sarah Perry. Yeah, I really want to read some more from her. I feel like she'll win the Booker one day.
I hope so. I think she has an interesting, I like the stuff she writes about. I think it's interesting. Like, I like The Essex Serpent. I think it's interesting. I've read another book of hers that I'm struggling to think of the name of right now. I will find it. Yeah, I just think she talks about interesting stuff, to be honest.
She wrote a memoir recently as well, didn't she? About her dad.
Yeah, is that After Me Comes the Flood? Is that the?
Oh no, that's one of her novels.
Is
that was her first novel. The one about the, I don't know. Yeah, that was her first novel. Yeah, and she wrote her latest book is a memoir about her dad. So Death of an Ordinary Man, yeah, is a memoir. So yeah,
I feel like she's got a strong. Her novels have a strong picture. It feels like she's got a strong idea of her characters. She's got a strong idea of where the novel is set. I felt that with The Essex Serpent as well, which I really liked. And that it feels she's not using a plot. She's trying to tell you about people in a particular place. That's how she feels to me. I just really like her stuff. But she gets a bit confused with. There's a couple of other Sarahs, like the Sarah Hall.
Yeah.
Who's the Sarah that wrote Signs for Lost Children? Sarah Moss. Like, and they kind of have a similar vibe, the like books and stuff. So I feel like she gets a bit.
And every time her name pops up, I'm always like, oh, is that the same Sarah Perry that wrote The Essex Serpent? Yeah, I do feel she gets a bit lost in the Sarahs, doesn't everybody?
Yeah,
this podcast gets lost in the Sarahs.
Story of my life.
Oh dear.
Yeah, so it's a bit. I think it is a bit unfortunate because I think her name is just genuinely quite hard to remember. But her books are. I really like her books. Or they're hard. Sorry, her name isn't hard to remember. It's hard to get her name sort of really sticking in your mind. She needs to have a bit more of a flair or something. But
Flair.
I think her books are beautiful.
Should we chat about our Patreon? Just for a mo. Share our Patreon to listeners. Yeah, like we said, we moved to monthly back in April, but we're also monthly on our Patreon, where prices start at just £2 a month, and you get access to our bonus episodes, our book club, of which we've got one coming up in July, on the calculation of volume 1, which I've just started. What else do we offer?
We have a close friends feed on Instagram.
We do, which I was reluctant to mention because I haven't posted anything on there in forever.
I realised that as I was putting in the show notes, I was like, I better mention that to Jenny. She's been a bit slack.
She's slack on that.
And then,
no, yes, we do.
I'd forgotten that we had that actually.
Yeah, sorry, it's because I haven't posted on there.
I should start using it more. I will try and remember.
We should start doing more of our like behind the scenes stuff and like only put it out on close friends rather than we just stick it out on stories. We should get selective. Yeah. Go on, Sarah, we interrupted.
Yeah, let's not derail into a planning meeting. I was going to say we have this sort of system on Patreon where you basically choose your own pricing, right? So the bottom tiers there's a couple of different pricing options, but you get the same thing across the board. So you just choose whatever you
and you can set the price too,
or you can set your own price. So whatever works. If you want to support the pod, which we very much appreciate, whatever works for you in your circumstances in this economy, please. And then the highest tier that we have is the one that's kind of the extra tier. So with that one, you get quarterly personalized book recommendations. So we get you to fill out this little survey about the stuff that you like to read, and then we will send you some personalized book recommendations. And then twice a year we will send you, as well as those, a physical book in the post, and we get those always through an independent bookstore near you. And then we
try
according to your taste.
I'm just going to caveat this with we try.
We always do.
The States is really hard, as I've discovered. You can't use a credit card. They want you to phone them. I'm like, I can't do that. So yeah, if you can persuade your local bookstore that they should have like an online space that uses PayPal, then I can pay them. But yeah, I've had a real issue with bookshops in the States. So where I've had to order from for our patrons based in the States is from Blackwell's in the UK, who ship to the States, who are great, but not ideal. So yeah, just we try. Australia, perfect. Netherlands, we've managed perfectly fine. The States, for some reason, proves challenging.
Jenny has an easier time buying on the Dutch
honestly, on the Dutch website
that don't have an English website.
They email me in Dutch. That is easier. But yeah, I love the recommendations. They're really good fun to do, actually. So
I like trying to work out the mailing stuff.
Yeah.
That's the most fun. But yeah, they're
we
good
do
fun.
we spend a lot of time talking about you if you're on our book recommendation list. Often just throughout the year we'll be like, this might be one to put aside for this person. So yes, and also if you are a patron and you feel like updating, the genre that you might, have grown out of a couple of years ago, or if you feel like putting more information, please do, because it does help us pick books that we think that you'll like. Yeah, we put a lot of effort into it, so it's fun.
You can also resend the little quiz that people can update with the latest information. So yeah, that's our top tier, which is fun. But yeah, otherwise, come and join us for just £2 a month, and you can come to our book club and hear more from us. We're a lot more chatty and chaotic, although probably people are thinking we're fairly chatty and chaotic in these episodes, but more so in the bonus episodes. Me and Sarah had a great chat about movies in the June episode. So we do always talk about books, but obviously not just books in those episodes.
The Patreon episodes are where we talk about what we're reading at the moment, what's books that we've got on our bedside table to read next. A lot more of that like chit chat, including what we're watching.
Books that we haven't loved.
Yes, yeah. A little bit more sort of close friend group chats. So come and join us.
Absolutely. Please do. Okay. Belle.
Okay.
Hit us with your next one.
Yeah, my next one is a memoir. It's the only memoir I've read this year, actually. Is that true? Yes, it is. It is Memorial Days by Geraldine Brooks, which is a memoir about love and grief. In 2019, I think it was, Geraldine's husband died really suddenly of a cardiac arrest while interstate on his book tour. He was a writer, a very popular writer, and was midway through his latest books tour when he sadly died. And as often happens, the administration and caretaking work in the wake of this tragedy leaves little time for Geraldine to grieve her husband. So 3 years later is where the memoir's set, when she travels from her home in Martha's Vineyard all the way to Flinders Island off the coast of Tasmania, Australia. And she begins what she calls her memorial days. So she essentially, I think she's there for a couple of months. She lives very simply in shacks or sort of beach houses. That's what Tasmanians call second homes or beach houses, by the way, shacks. So she lives in a couple of different shacks, which are in remote areas of Flinders Island. So she's living, looking over these beautiful uninhabited beaches. Flinders Island has beautiful rock formations and sort of wilderness. So there's a lot of gorgeous writing about the landscape. And she essentially spends her day walking on beaches and reminiscing about her love and her life with her late husband. So it's, in this memoir, it jumps between sort of her in the present day on Flinders Island, sort of just observing, the very rugged, beautiful coastline, and learning a bit more about the history of Flinders Island, which is itself steeped in deep grief. And so we're taken between that present day for her and also on this sort of journey through her life. So she sort of touches on, I think, the couple of days leading up to, or the weeks leading up to her husband's death, and then the weeks following it. And she also just talks a lot about sort of her life when she, I think they were just in college, or she just finished college when she met her husband. So they'd spent, many decades together. It's just such a beautiful book. She was truly, truly in love with him. And she writes grief very well. I would say that personally, I think, this memoir rivals Joan Didion's, who's really well known for her writing about grief. Every word's written so beautifully, and I found myself doing that thing where you read over sentences time and time again, and annoying my partner by interrupting whatever he was doing to read passages out to him. Yeah, it was just a really, really, really beautiful book. Obviously, it's not something that everybody enjoys reading about, but I think it's something that everybody is going to experience at some point in lots of different ways. And I don't know, that's why I love memoirs like this. I feel like they sharing in somebody's experience of grief, and not only grief, but the love that comes before the grief, is, just a really, really special opportunity. It's just one of those, one of the moments when I'm reading a book like this that I feel very grateful to people sharing their lives with the world. And so that was Memorial Days by Geraldine Brooks. And again, it's quite a short memoir. I read it over just a couple of days. I think it's been nominated for I want to say the Miles Franklin, but I should find that out before I tell lies.
How did you come across it? I've never heard of her before. How did you pick this up?
So she's quite well known as an author. Her book, I think her most recent one was called Horse. I don't know. I've just seen it in bookshops. I haven't actually read it myself. But I actually saw this book in a bookshop in London when I was there at the start of the year in March. And it was one of the ones that I didn't buy over there and take home because I was like, she's an Australian author. I'm sure I can find this at home. What was she nominated for? Sorry, let me just find out.
She's pretty well acclaimed Australian writer, I think. So I've seen this book also on other Australian podcasts. I think we talked about this. At some point, Belle and I talked about this, and I said I would give it to my mum to read, which I have done. So she's actually reading at the moment, and she's loving it. She's really
nice,
good.
She's won the Pulitzer Prize.
She has
won the Pulitzer.
Yeah.
Okay.
She was a finalist for the Stella Prize this year. I think she was on the long list, and also the National Book Critics Circle Award, and she won the ABR Biography Book of the Year Award, which I think those have just come out, those prizes. What does it stand for, ABR Book Awards? Australian Book Industry Awards. There you go. Oh. It's very well deserving. I'm glad your mum's liking it.
Yeah, I want to read it. Yeah, she's really, really enjoying it. She said it's quite, basically exactly what you've said. It's quite intense, but she's really enjoying it. So she's reading it sort of slowly, I think. But she's really, really enjoying it. So I think I want to read it as well. After she's
it actually, it made me cry. It was just very, very powerful. I can't remember the last time a book's done that. And it wasn't crying about a sad thing. It was crying because of just how much she loved him. It's just really, really sweet. And on the back of the book, there's a picture of them sitting at their kitchen table. I think maybe it was that pushed me over the edge after I just read like a really beautiful chapter and closed it. And yeah, it's lovely.
Shall I go next? I also have a memoir. So I'm going to pivot to another memoir.
Go for it.
So my recommendation is Always Home, Always Homesick by Hannah Kent. So this one came out last year. Hannah Kent, we've talked about on the podcast before. Honestly, I couldn't love her more. She's written 3 fiction books, I believe, and this is her first non-fiction. This is very much a memoir. So it is a memoir really in 2 halves. So Hannah Kent is an Australian writer, and the first half of the book follows her when she was 17, where she went to Iceland on a scholarship in 2003. So this trip that she did was a year-long trip in Iceland. It was very, very impactful for her for the rest of her life. Sorry, someone's whistling really loudly outside the window. Hopefully you don't hear it.
I can hear that.
Yeah, I thought you could hear it. So this trip that she did to Iceland, this 1 year that she spent in Iceland, was hugely impactful and has really informed like so many aspects of her life since she went there, and she's been back many, many times. And so in the memoir, she is talking about it in real time as if it's happening there. She kept a journal throughout, so she has like really, really good memories of what she did and where she went on particular days and how she felt. And she talks about the culture shock that she went through, this language barrier. She barely spoke Icelandic, and some people spoke English, but other people really not. She had some experience where she was supposed to go to Reykjavik, the capital, or all the other students, it was a Rotary exchange, went to the Reykjavik, and she got sent up to some like who knows where village way north, way far away from everyone else, and she was waiting at the airport when she got there for like hours, and they couldn't figure out where she was supposed to go. And this is 2003, so that like the internet access is very different. She really just had to wait. She also talks about how when she found out that she was going to Iceland, when she applied for this exchange, no one that she knew in Adelaide had been to Iceland. She went to the library and printed some stuff off on the internet about Iceland and was like showing it to people, and no one had any clue where she was going. This is way before Iceland became like a kind of cool place to go. She was like, what is this? And so she documents like her homesickness. Obviously this couldn't be more alien as a like Australian, really. And then how this changed over time, and she talks about the different host families that she had, and eventually she gets this deep attachment to Iceland and its landscape, and particularly it's got this very deep tradition of storytelling which really drew her in as someone who was even then really wanting to be a writer. So she talks about really how Iceland kind of lives in her heart and always has. And for her debut novel, she went back to Iceland and wrote a fiction book which is about Agnes Magnusdóttir, who was the last woman to be executed in Iceland. And this was a burial rights was massive, like an absolutely massive bestseller. Translated into 30 languages. I think it came out 2015, I want to say, and it was absolutely massive. I loved it. Such a beautiful book. And she talks about all the effort she went to research this book. If you know the story, what the elements of the story that are real, the elements of the story that she made up, like what she had to learn. She went to like, it's just recent enough, Agnes's death, that people kind of still know local stories. Like it's sort of people like their grandfather was alive around the time that she was alive, sort of late 19th century. So she was able to find like old farmers who like remember sort of vaguely when this happened, and she was able to sort of put together like lore about exactly where it was, and she found the right places and all that kind of stuff. So the main thing that she's really exploring is her relationship with Iceland, and how it's like made her a writer and all the impact it's had on her, and this like the paradox of having these 2 emotional states if you love a country so much that you don't live in. So always being home, and always being homesick. And it's just, I loved it. Like it's so good. It's for someone who, if you were interested in writing at all, if you wanted to read about writing, you would love it. It's got so much stuff about her sort of struggle to write. She also, this memoir actually that she wrote because she had a writer's block for her fourth novel, and she ended up just really being stuck again on Iceland, and like Agnes was like living again in her head. So she wrote the memoir of like how Agnes came to be, really. So it's as a writer, you would find it really interesting. If you're someone who is a migrant or lives, you live not in the country that you were born in, I also really implore you to read this, because she just captures this feeling of knowing two places and missing people that are in different places like so beautifully. And she's now lives in Australia still, but she's gone back to Iceland many times, and she's always battled with this idea, like, should she move to Iceland? She really like feels at home there. She misses all these people in Iceland. She goes back, and she sort of, time passes and people get older, and she talks about the sort of shock of seeing these kids that were tiny suddenly being big. And yeah, so if you're someone who is interested in writing, and or if you aren't liked that book, or if you're someone who has that experience, I really recommend it. It was a very unique book. I thought really worth reading.
Yeah, I really want to read it. I have it on hold at the library on Libby. It's just there waiting. I'm at the front of the queue, just finding the time to do it. Yeah, it sounds really great.
It's quite short chapters as well, so it was I was doing like a chapter before bed, so it's really nicely kind of broken down. It's got lots of pictures as well. It's a good.
Have you been to Iceland?
I have, yeah. For my 30th, I went to Iceland. I loved it.
Nice.
Really love it.
Yeah. I've only been to Reykjavik, but I really loved it. So yeah.
You went with Alice.
I did went with Alice off
Yeah.
of the pod back in the day.
Yeah.
We went together. We had a great time. Yeah, I'd love to go back and see a bit more because we stuck to Reykjavik.
Yeah, me too.
But yeah, and I read Burial Rites either at the time or shortly after. So just, if it's somewhere you visited, just love reading about it as a country, I think.
Maybe we need to do a second pod holiday.
Yeah,
Oh,
we
yes,
should.
please.
That's where we meet. Absolutely, let's do it.
Next year.
Have
Yeah.
next year. Get it in the diary.
Next year. Lock it in. Yeah.
I have got also a kind of memoir as my second choice, and that is I Feel Bad About My Neck by Nora Ephron. So this is a essay collection by Nora Ephron, who I love, and I love her films. I think she's a really great writer of fiction as well, as I really enjoyed Heartburn. But this essay collection just really blew me away. She's writing about life and growing older and parenting, but she writes with such kind of humour and wit, and uses this lovely conversational style that I guess her films are really known for as well. She's an incredible writer, and I don't think I enjoyed it because I'm of a certain age now, because she was in her 60s when she wrote it, but obviously she has a lot of life to reflect on. It's got a really nice introduction to it by Dolly Alderton, who I also really like, who describes how she read it, in her early 20s. So I think you would get a lot out of this book, whatever age you are. It's like your very cool aging auntie, like, writing you little letters. It's just really, really nice. But I've only really picked out one example to give you, and it's, again, clearly we want to talk about death and grief right now. But she, in her last essay, it's called Considering the Alternative, she is reflecting on death and aging and sickness and living with regrets versus living life to the full, and what she would change about her life and what she wouldn't. And she's reflecting on the final conversation she had with her best friend who was dying of cancer. But what I really loved about it is she has this moment at the end of a very kind of poignant, heartfelt essay where she suddenly remembers that she needs to buy bath oil. So I'm just going to read that section. I need more bath oil, and that reminds me to say something about bath oil. I use this bath oil I happen to love. It's called Dr. Hauschka's Lemon Bath. It costs about $20 a bottle, which is enough for about 2 weeks of baths if you follow the instructions. The instructions say 1 capful per bath, but a capful gets you nowhere. A capful is not enough. I have known this for a long time, but if the events of the last few years have taught me anything, it's that I'm going to feel like an idiot if I die tomorrow, and I skimped on bath oil today. So I use quite a lot of bath oil, more than you could ever imagine. After I take a bath, my bathtub is as dangerous as an oil slick, but thanks to the bath oil, I'm as smooth as silk. I'm going to buy more right now. Goodbye. And I think that was the last essay she ever wrote, because she died about 6 years later. But yeah, I knew I'd love it because I love her, and I love her films, and I love her writing. But it was just brilliant. I really, really highly recommend it.
This sounds
meaning to read it for a long time. I think you'd really love it.
Yeah, I've just put it on hold actually while she was talking.
If you like her films, and you like
also
her
looking it
humor,
up,
you'll love her writing.
Yeah, I love that. I love that you read out that Bathrobe. It was a great.
It's just so funny because the whole story is just like quite poignant, and she scripts out this kind of conversation that she's had with her friend who's, you know, in the throes of death, and she obviously has this moment where she's like, you know, I must buy some more of that bath oil. I loved it, and a lot of them are in that kind of similar vein, humor wise. So yeah, highly recommend, and go watch her films if you've not seen them, because they're my favourites.
Love that. Can we do our honourable mentions? Because I actually have a very related book, so that we can like keep on the grief and sadness, and we can move on to brighter things. So I've got as an honourable mention a reread, which is Grief is a Thing with Feathers by Max Porter. So I didn't want to put this as my. I've talked about it on the pod before because it's one of my favourite books.
We did,
but I reread it,
didn't we?
We did, but I wanted to mention it because we haven't talked about it for a few years. So it's my special reread honourable mention. So this came out in 2015. It was Max Porter's debut. He is a publisher, actually. I only found that out recently. He works for Faber. So this was his sort of foray into the world of actual writing. Very experimental novella about that's based on the Ted Hughes poetry collection called Crow. And it's about a family and the mother has just died. So it's from the perspective of the father, his two sons, and then they have this mad creature who comes to live in their house called the Crow, and it's from the perspective of all three of these. And it is basically about just sort of the sort of insanity, comical weirdness of grief. It's a very particular kind of book. It's quite short. It's only about 100 pages or so, and it sort of switches between like prose, like verse. There's vignettes. The prose sections are really sort of strange and bizarre, and it's sort of doesn't have this kind of grief narrative arc at all. At one point he just sort of has this sort of chaotic ideas about grief and like the experience of grief. So like, for example, at one point he lists the stages of grief and he says that they're insanity, pretentiousness, denial, indulgence, and nonsense. So he just kind of like, it's like a big fuck you to sort of the whole idea of like grief and the 5 stages and like this sort of way that we talk about grief in this sort of romantic way. It's very mad, and it's really looking at that sort of mad side of like raw grief. So basically the boys and the dad are trying to deal with the grief in the sort of aftermath of the mother passing away. And then the Crow is there as this sort of symbol of their grief, just causing absolute carnage. So he just like does insane things. And then the boys and their dad are trying to sort of like to deal with it. It's just such a good look at I'll say it again, like the madness of grief. So it's kind of a different side of it, but like you're talking about that funny aspect of it that the Nora Ephron memoir is tackling, and this is the sort of like insanity where you're like walking around your house in the weeks after thinking like, what the fuck, when something sort of tragic has happened to you. And I was inspired to reread this because I've been watching Dua Lipa's book club.
I haven't caught it yet. I keep meaning to.
So she's amazing, first of all. So she interviews the channel's called Service 95, and she interviews authors, and she interviewed Max Porter. And I watched this, and he's such an interesting person. He's very softly spoken actually in real life, and he's quite relaxed. It's not the sort of vibe at all that you expect, and he's very like interested in other people, and he's I don't know what impression I had from him from the book, but he surprised me. And he just talks about he lost his dad or his mum, I can't remember which one, at a very young age, and so he just said he's felt like he's had this sort of mad grief inside of him for a long time. And it just sort of had to come out, and that was his debut, and it just felt like a big release. So it's just awesome. If you're someone who is interested in reading about this kind of thing, I think it's really a very unique and interesting take, I think, on grief, really.
Yeah, I love that one. Have you seen the film?
No, I actually watched it, looked at the trailer. Who is it? Is it Andrew Scott? No,
it's Benedict Cumberbatch.
Oh, yes, yeah, that's right.
I did see that.
I'm not a fan of him.
I keep meaning to watch it. I'm wondering, how they've done it. Because that Crow is nuts in the book. I love him.
They have an actual Crow,
or it might have been Cillian Murphy. Yeah, who did a one-person play? Was it Cillian Murphy or Andrew Scott or someone? I really liked.
What if
Yeah, like a play of
Oh,
I
it,
don't
but it's
know.
got finished now.
I didn't know there was a
Yeah.
play. Maybe I did know there was a play.
Yeah, I think you
I
told
think
me about
Andrew
that,
Scott
CJ.
might have. Yeah, it's coming back to me now. Andrew Scott's ringing bells. Yeah, that's a great book.
I loved that
Do you
as well.
rather? Have you got another honourable mention?
Nope.
No, that's it.
I've only got one as well. Sorry.
Go on, Belle. You do yours.
So my honourable mention so far this year is a book called Minor Black Figures by Brandon Taylor. So it's Brandon Taylor's most recent book. It's got such a beautiful cover. Wait, I'm just reaching for the... It's unfortunately I had to buy the hardback cover. And so I've taken the little book sleeve off. So I'm just showing the girls. Sorry for everyone actually listening to the podcast. It's beautiful. It's got like just a New York City streetscape on it. I'm about halfway through actually, so I have not even finished this, and it very well may make its way to the top of my favorite books of the year. And it's about a young man in New York, and he's an artist, and it's about a summer romance, really. So he meets this man, or another young man, who's a white former priest. So Brandon is like a young black painter, and he's sort of struggling with, having to work two jobs, and having, I guess, whatever the artist's version of a writer's block is. So he's sort of stuck at the moment, not really knowing what he wants to paint. And so there's a lot of like writing about just struggling to work out if, what you sort of feel driven to do is going to mean anything to anybody. Whether it'll contribute positively to the world, and, what does it mean? And so he's in this sort of really stuck moment in summer in New York City, which is a time when a lot of people leave New York City to sort of go away on holidays, or a lot of his friends are like staying with rich friends upstate, etc. And so it just seems to be like a funny time for him to be in New York City, feeling a bit lonely, and he meets a guy. And so I think it's going to be sort of just about their romance, and it's just beautiful already. It's one of like a couple of books I'm reading at the moment, so I've been jumping between this one and other books just so that it lasts a little bit longer. I'm really enjoying it.
I've never read any of his. You have, haven't you, Sarah?
Yeah, I love Brandon Taylor. Loved Real Life. Also really liked Filthy Animals. Haven't read I think it's called The Late Americans, his one before this. I love. There's something about the mood of his books I really like.
I think this is my favorite.
I really like
I
them.
think this is winning out of his books for me. Yeah, I think the New York City, like the setting, is quite different to the setting of the other books I've read, Filthy Animals and A Little Life. I also have A Little Life. Sorry, what's it?
Real Life.
Real Life. There we go.
Real Life. Yeah.
Real Life and Filthy Animals. I have also not read his third book, but yeah, I'm just really loving this. So recommend it, Sarah. I think you would too.
I've only got two honourable mentions. I don't really need to talk about them very much. One, I've popped the Correspondent in because actually, if I hadn't talked about it about 3 times already on the podcast, that would have been one that I would have mentioned, by Virginia Evans, who obviously won the Women's Prize. And my second honourable mention is actually a writing book. So it's called A Long Game: Notes on Writing Fiction by Elizabeth McCracken. I'd never heard of Elizabeth McCracken. I happened to read this because I was doing Herkyed 2.0 and sticking with the new releases, and this is the only one I could find, maybe for, I don't know, May or April, that I was remotely interested in, and it was so good. I gave it 5 stars. She's not an author I've ever heard of, but it was like a writer's pep talk in book form. She's really generous with her process and how she does things and how her thought process works, and it's just full of amazing advice, but also like really realistic notes on expectations and like life commitments and fitting writing in kind of in between living. And I just really enjoyed it. So if anybody out there is into writing, then I can highly recommend. She's probably some well-renowned author that I should have heard of, a bit like Geraldine Brooks. Elizabeth McCracken.
It rings a tiny bell, but it's like a child's toy bell. It's a whisper of a bell.
Yeah, who knows? But I thought it was really good.
I love that, Sarah.
Thank you. To Cat's Bell on a Cat's Collar. Yeah. We need to circle back to Herc. That's, if you don't know Herc yet, it's called it's the hardest reading challenge you'll ever do. It's this mad thing on YouTube that Jenny and I have chatted a little bit about on the Patreon. We need to circle back. Discuss now it's finished. We won't talk about it now, Jen. Save it for the Patreon.
Save it. I've got into 3.0. I'll save it. Teaser for the next Patreon episode. Yeah. Okay, we're done. Thank you both. That was great. I really enjoyed that. This is what I mean about our monthly episodes, is I haven't heard you talk about those books before in the main. No. So it's really nice actually not to be listening to each other say the same thing that we've already said 3 times. It's great. Yeah. Thank you everyone for listening. As always, there are loads of ways you can get in touch with us. You can email us at thebookcastcluboutlook.com. We're active on Instagram and TikTok. We're at Bookcast Club. You can hear more from us on Patreon if you wish. And that's it. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back again next month. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.